That's my baby. That's my baby.
We're going at it at 110%.
I just want 5 minutes of happiness, please. Just give me 5 minutes.
And they scored! They did it!
Left, feet left.
What the hell was that? Oh, yeah!
What the fuck are you talking about?
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the new weekly roundup on our new night with our new time, I guess. Tuesday nights, which this is going to be beautiful. We get to get loud and rowdy at 10 o'clock on a Tuesday night. I live in an apartment complex, and this is a noise complaint waiting to happen. But I'll be gone in 4 months anyway, so who gives a fuck? Looks like I'm officially moving to Melbourne when the baby's here. My parents, they've got properties out there and they live out there, and then they got like an extra condo that they rent out, and we'll probably go live in the condo, and it's close to the beach, and lots of good things that go with that. You don't have to pay rent. You know the landlord, even though he's a dick, I still know him. You know what I mean?
Save some money,
He doesn't listen to the show, so what an asshole he is. My own father doesn't even listen to the show.
But of course, as you guys know, we usually go live on Saturday nights at 8 o'clock, but now it's going to be every Tuesday at 9:30.
9:30, hopefully, yeah. I don't know.
We went a little bit later today just so we didn't overlap with the show before us.
The happy hour.
Yes. So now we're going to be live every Tuesday. So hopefully we're going to get a little bit more interaction. We won't have to deal with everybody going to the shore or any of that. So, but
I'll tell you what. Yeah. For these longtime followers of A2D, this is something that, like the first show I ever did, when me and Frank were first doing a show on A2D, it was like a block that was, I believe it was Hockey Happy Hour and us, and that was kind of like we were packaged into the same day. And now here we are, and it's all come full circle, and we're packaged into the same day again. It had to be that way. It just has to be. Nostalgia purposes.
Just like the Phillies bullpen right now, giving up a 2-run
of course they did.
So that's
nice. Yeah, the Phillies. They're just trying to do it to you again. Oh man, no. You got to take care of business against teams like the Reds. Oh, and speaking of taking care of business, that professional segue. Even though we're on a new night, nothing has changed as far as the best in the business and EXP Realty doing business together. Yeah. Steven, Jesus. Daniel, do you have the ability to throw up my EXP ad? Because I do not remember it off the top of my head. If not, I'll wing it. There we go. If you're looking to buy or sell a home or looking for a change in career brokerage, contact Alan Foy of EXP Realty LLC at 302-682-8820 or visit him at alan.foy@exprealty.com. Alan, with a lot of big things going on, just took a new role with Cross Christian, another school that we have done some business with A2D during our high school basketball days, and he's down in Delaware doing business with them in a new role. As the athletic director and boys basketball coach, and still doing all of his real estate stuff. So exciting. We'll have to get him on here at some point soon as we build up to football season, or maybe just as we get into football season. He's a big Vikings fan and all that. And we talk to him about his new role and what's going on with it, and have some fun with football talk and all that. But that's
going to be a fun week too.
Yeah, I mean, it always seems to be fun when he's on. It's always like nobody seems to hold back. We let shit fly, and those feelings don't seem to be be of anybody's concern whenever Alan's on.
Yeah.
But speaking of feelings, Daniel, your feelings on the Eagles and a possible Kareem Hunt. The idea of somehow making a deal happen to bring him to Philly. Your thoughts?
Yeah, that's the poll question of today. Will Kareem Hunt get traded to the Eagles? I don't think he does. I don't know if it fits well because we have so many running backs. Not saying that they're great, but we got a lot of running backs with different roles. I kind of like that idea because if you bring in Kareem Hunt, what does that mean for a guy like Kenneth Gainwell who has that same type of role with the offense, with the pass catcher out of the backfield. He'll run a couple of rushes up the middle or to the side. And we got to see if Miles Sanders can stay healthy, because hopefully he's the guy that's going to be the primary back, and then let the other guys fall into place. If we trade for Kareem Hunt, what's that going to do for the backfield? I feel like we could get the same amount of production out of these young guys as we would Hunt, unless we could get him for cheap. I'm not trading a lot for him. But then again, there's the chance that he could wind up getting released, and then you could pick him up. If we could do that, I'd be all for it, because you can add him to the system and then for nothing. But if you have to trade for him, it depends. But right now, I'm saying no, because I like what I've seen from Kenneth Gainwell. What about you?
Well, I'm a big Kenny Gainwell guy. I was one of the original, Kenny Gainwell. I was on the Kenny Gainwell train shortly after we drafted him, and just felt like he was going to fit very well into what we want our system to be. And he did. He had his moments as a rookie where you looked at him and went, yeah, this guy's going to play very well for us. And he could do different things that, outside of just the offense, I think in special teams and stuff like that. We were seeing him be utilized, and it's something where with Miles seems to never be able to stay on the field as consistently as you would like him to. And I take a lot of heat for being a guy that is not as much of a Miles Sanders supporter as it seems like a lot of other people in this fan base. And people think I'm crazy, but I mean, I see a guy that, like, it's very flashy. It's like very but there's no substance to it. That's what Miles Sanders so far has been in his career. You're like, oh, look at all this. Like, yeah, there's all types of what looks like it could be, if you just put all this together consistently on a weekly basis, yeah, I like what I have. Like, you're one of the top backs in the league, but it never ever seems to be consistent. It's never at any point during his career been on a weekly basis. And then he just always seems dinged up or can't stay healthy or fumbles at the wrong time or whatever. And the fumbling issue has gotten better over the past couple of years, but it just, if you asked right now, are you going to give Miles Sanders a 4 or 5 year extension? Give him a second contract after that rookie deal, you'd say no, right? Like, you're just not going to. Yeah. He hasn't been enough as a back to get that second deal that some of these other backs get. After that rookie deal is up, and I think that answers everything that you need to say about that situation with Miles Sanders. If you're saying you're not giving him that extension, well then, how good is the guy really? I like Kenny Gainwell, but again, like, it's not like he's stepping in and he's, a guy that's an elite player either, another good player. I like what I've got with him. Kareem Hunt, there was a time when you went, wow, yeah, this guy's one of the top backs in the league. He's probably not that anymore. And that's why, I'm actually very much on board with the idea of making this move, because I don't think it would take a ton to trade for him. And with Howie being Howie, and kind of, this isn't Howie's wheelhouse. Like, this is what Howie figures out, how to the asset side of it, and how to put all those assets to good use without really making it look like you gave up much in the process. You got plenty of assets, and that way, you make a deal like this happen, and people look at it and go, okay, well, who gives a fuck at this point? whether it's a mid-round draft pick or something like that. Like, I mean, that's probably what is it going to cost you? A 5th round pick for the guy? I mean, it's not like he's, after, and then, forget about what he's doing on the field. You've got all the other baggage that comes with it. You know what I mean? So it's not like you give him a 5th round pick in Jalen Reagor, for God's sakes. You know what I'm saying? You're like, yeah, that'll make that deal happen. And nobody in Philadelphia in this fan base is losing sleep over Jalen Reagor. Jalen Reagor's in the deal. Go.
Or like a 5th rounder in Andre Dillon.
This guy because he's a woman beater, and he beat the crap out of that girl. And how fucked up all that shit was. Somehow them getting rid of Jalen Reagor in the deal would, like, wash it out. I mean, okay, you know what? I hate the motherfucker. He's a piece of shit, beats the crap out of women. But Jalen Reagor's gone. So, okay, I can deal with it.
Yeah, now looking at like the contract side of things, and Miles Sanders is up after the end of this year.
Hold on, I want to clarify real quick. Those are not my words. It was kind of like an analogy.
Yeah.
You knew I was going.
Yeah. But Miles Sanders has 1 year left for 1.12. And then, ironically, Kareem Hunt has 1 year left as well for 1.35. So looking at that, maybe I would do it. Maybe I would do it because then both guys would be up at the same time. You can use them because I feel like this year is a good year to I'm not saying go all in, but you have a really good team right now where you can make a good run, win a division, and then see what happens in the playoffs. And then next year, maybe you still have Kenneth Gainwell, and then you can see if he can become your lead back. Or if you don't, then you could just not re-sign Hunt and Sanders and then go and look for somebody else. But you could have both at the same time. They're both up after this year. And if, just like you said, if Hunt's not going to cost you that much, you know what? Maybe I would take a flyer on it.
And who could be cheaper to re-sign after this year? And I think the answer would definitely be Kareem Hunt as well, just because of all the baggage and everything else.
He's 3 years older. He's 3 years older. He's not going to command the money that Miles Sanders will have.
Yeah, he's not in the position to command anything, is he? So you've got all the leverage, which Howie also loves. Yeah. That's another Howie thing. Give him all the leverage. Oh, he loves that, right? He loves to have all that power and control and a deal like that. It just seems like the type of Howie thing to, like, if anybody makes something like this happen, if anybody's going to try to spin something for a guy like Kareem Hunt, it's Howie. I don't, it just seems like with the way this offense is and just kind of how you want to, if you could, you'd like to build as much through the running game as you possibly can. You've got such a dominant, offensive line up front. You're so strong. And, it's like this idea that even if you could have it turn into some sort of three-headed monster, I mean, which, it's, you've got Kareem Hunt, Miles Sanders, Jalen Hurts on the field at the same time. I mean, you've got a lot of creativity. And for Nick Sirianni to try to have some fun, to maybe scheme things up in ways that make you go this offense, regardless of whether our concerns with Jalen and what he can do throwing the ball, you just have a lot to it that makes you go, wow, this offense and this team in general is going to be fun to watch, and maybe you go in places.
How much?
We all know what the elephant in the room is, but that'll take.
What I was saying is, how much has a year changed this offensive line? If you're thinking about it for the running game, well, like last year, we're thinking about, can this offensive line be healthy and sustain blocks for the running game? And now I feel like maybe it's the opposite. I feel like the offensive line is one of the strengths. We got a lot younger. Of course, you drafted Cam Jurgens, who's been starting at center since Kelsey went and had the mild surgery. He'll be back week 1. Last year, we got Landon Dickerson. He had the same thing where he wound up filling. He wasn't even supposed to play last year. He came in late, filled in at left tackle when Brooks went out. They moved what's his name over to right guard. Dickerson wound up starting basically the rest of the season. And then you had, of course, Jordan Mailata come into his own. He was one of the best left tackles in the league. And
Phillies aren't going to let it slip away here, are they, Daniel?
No.
Doesn't look like the Phillies are going to let it slip away. They almost did, but wow.
Yeah.
Who was it? Somebody hit a triple? Is that what I'm saying?
Yeah. He had a man on first, triple, 6-6, no outs with a man on third. So they better get this guy home. Just bunt it to the right side. But
they should have fly ball to the outfield, for God's sakes.
Yeah, definitely.
We're through 6 in Houston, by the way. The Astros and the Twins, and Verlander is just filthy tonight. He's got that special something going on that you're not supposed to talk about or mention because you might jinx it. So let's not jinx it. But we all know, anybody who's a baseball person knows what I mean. And let me look at the numbers real quick. Exactly how many strikeouts he has.
And we got Timothy saying that was a home run. He thinks it was a home run.
Verlander's got 10 strikeouts through 6 innings. I mean, he's just absolutely dealing. And think about Verlander. That would be like the third one of his career if he could make that happen. And you're talking about a dude that after everything that happened, 10 years ago, he's the best pitcher in baseball, right? And he's like winning MVP awards and stuff. And obviously his father time catches up with you, things happen. But
the Tommy John as well.
He gets Tommy John. He comes back and he looks like he's 23 again. The dude's pitching like having the best year of his career. He's got like a 1.87 ERA. I mean, it's unbelievable where Tommy John surgery is at. I mean, it's always been that way, but it's just kind of developed to where it's like you used to go, oh, yeah, that guy will be better, after Tommy John surgery than he was before. Now it's to the point where it's like they've got a brand new fucking arm. Like they just put a brand new, spanking, young arm on that thing and said, go ahead. Like this shit is amazing how these guys are getting this shit and coming back out and just being absolutely dominant.
I always say with the surgery, it's not the surgery itself that makes them better. It helps them. It basically heals the arm. It's just how you work with getting better in your mechanics after the surgery. It gives you all that time to practice, change up what you feel like you were doing wrong. You watch a little bit of video, you get the mechanics going, the accuracy, and a lot of times, all that time, even though you lose a year, you don't really lose that year in playing time. You just lose the year in age, and sometimes it works to your advantage. You can get fully healthy. You can prepare better, and then sometimes the hitters aren't ready for what you're going to do because you might come back a totally different pitcher. And even though Verlander was a beast beforehand, he's figured out a way to come at people differently, but in the same fashion, and it's worked.
Well, mechanically, he's always been very solid, but I mean, look at his velocity. His velocity's back up. His velocity's back up on the high 90s, and it's just there's juice there again. It's like the arm. It's like all those miles right on the old truck, right? You got all those miles on the old truck, and then finally, you change the motor or whatever, give it a brand spanking new motor, and the old truck might have 300,000 miles on it, but it's got a brand new spanking motor in it, and it's ready to go another 300,000 more. Verlander's like he might be like the closest thing we're ever going to see to like Nolan Ryan again. You know what I mean? Like those types of guys, Ryan and Schilling and Halladay, and guys that are just absolute workhorses like that, where you just that type of breed of pitcher. He's old school in that way, right? And like. Yeah. But yeah, that's what this is. He's like 38, and it's like fuck it, go ahead, go pitch another 5 years at this point.
He might as well.
Dude's having the best year of his career. It's I'm good for you. You're pitching well. Then you look up, you're like, he's not just pitching well. He's having the best year he's ever had.
And he's on arguably the best team in the league in Houston, who has the best record. They're playing great. I feel like.
And I still want to see him win a World Series because, it's still going to trigger baseball. I want to see the Astros do as much winning as possible over the next 20 years, just so it can trigger every single person that was all mad about this situation.
You can have them get into the playoffs, and you can have all
the
security.
I'm actually pulling everybody. The Phillies fans, close your ears, right? Close your ears because I'm trolling a little bit right now. But I'm pulling for an Astros Mets World Series. I'm pulling for an Astros Mets World Series because I want to see Dusty Baker and Buck Showalter at they're both 80, and I want to see them managing the World Series against each other. I think one of you has to get a ring. Neither one of you. You both have gone. Dusty Baker's been there, done that how many times, never gotten one. Buck Showalter's been on so many different great situations where he's built winners that and then left, and other guys have come over and finished the deal. And it's great. And then I want to see Dusty smoke the shit out of Buck, obviously, because we can't have the Mets winning the World Series. But still, you just be like, this would be.
You got a walk-off single by Nick Matone, so the Phillies win 7-6.
Good. Now you got to beat the Reds. This is the time of year. You're gonna go be a playoff team. You got to go beat the Reds. You got Bryce returning here soon. It's Schwarber's back in the lineup. Did Castellanos extend his hitting streak?
Yes, I believe he did. Let me go look at how he did. On Nick Castellanos was 1 for 4, so with the RBI. So yes, he did. We got Frank chiming in. I agree to the poll. I think Howie somehow, some way, going to fleece him. I can see that. So the final for today for the Phillies was 7-6 against the Reds. Of course, after blowing the save, Branham gets the win, and then the loss goes to, it looks like Alexis Diaz for the Reds. Wayne for, there you go. And so he gets the loss for the Reds, so we get the win. And it looks like as of right now, the Dodgers are beating the Brewers 1-0, so that's a game that we got to keep in track. And then the Yankees are beating the Mets 4-2. But
there's 2 outs in the ninth there. The Mets are threatening right now.
First and third.
So And I just looked at it. So Verlander, they pulled him after 6. He had the 10 strikeouts and the no through 6, and they pulled him.
Yeah, and let me look at his pitch count because usually he was up to 92 pitches. So.
Yeah, he's probably telling like at this point in his career, right? He don't get like it's not about. I think he had a perfect game going. Yeah, he didn't have any walks, so he had a perfect game through 6, and they yanked him. But yeah, that just shows where Verlander's at, right? Like as a professional, like I've pitched how many no hitters. It's not about that. I don't need to go throw 140 pitches tonight to throw another one. Like fuck this. Like like can we protect me right now? Let's go protect the 2-0. I might have let him go one more just because it's only 2-0.
Yeah.
I want my, I need to get me at least through 7. But you're the Astros. You're a good team. You trust your bullpen. Whatever is what it is. But
and then
now,
the Guardians up 1-0 against the Padres. So that's another one. Keeping an eye on for the Phillies.
Of course, they brought in the new arm, and he gives up a single to the first batter. So you're like, Dusty. This is what Dusty Baker does. This is why he's never won a World Series, by the way, because Dusty Baker has no idea how to manage a pitching staff. Go ask Cubs fans. Go ask Mark Pryor and Kerry Wood about their careers and how differently they could have been if Dusty Baker didn't make them throw 260 innings each in 2003 or whatever it was. Just absolutely ran those dudes into the ground.
Well, not that. Ask the Padres how Josh Hader's doing for them right now since getting traded to the Padres. He has a 14.5
See, this is what happened. The Padres sold themselves. The Padres sold out to the devil, right? They sold their soul to the devil and tried to be a big market team. We're going to be the Dodgers. We're going to quit. We're going on. And then the baseball gods were like, no, your role. Know your role. You're the Padres. Yeah, you're not the Dodgers. You're not the Yankees. You don't get to try to come up here and come swimming with the big fish. Stay down there where you belong. But yeah, this is what happens when you try to, when you try to.
No, it's not even that. It's the fact that they traded all out for Juan Soto.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
No. And then 3 days later, it comes out that Tatis gets suspended for, what was it?
The whole thing, right? The whole thing, games, all of it. It's just like the baseball gods do not. This is your punishment. This is what you get. See,
and then on top of that, this was like a month before they actually told him, so he could have served 30 of those games already. But Tatis forgot to file the paperwork, so he had to start it then. So he could have had 30 games where it could have been used as served, and he would have been halfway through the suspension already. He would have been good for the playoffs had they have made it. Wow. But because he messed up, didn't file the paperwork in time, he's not only suspended for the last half of the season, he's not even eligible to play in the playoffs, and then he's going to serve 20 or 30 games in next season. So it's like he's killing him for 2 seasons, which is crazy. So it's like they had to trade for Juan Soto just to make up for not even having for Tatis Jr. And that's one of the big questions I think I had for you is how much is it hurting them that they don't have Tatis? It's like you got a guy that you signed for, what is it, $155 to $200 million, and he can't even stay healthy or stay on the field for him for a 4 season. He's been there for 3 years and he hasn't played a 4 season yet.
Well, that's more the issue, right? It's like I'm surprised the dude didn't hurt himself trying to. I don't know how he took it's where the whole fuck. First of all, and I love the kid's talent, and I've defended him. He's probably one of my favorite. At one point, I said he's my favorite young player in all of baseball.
Yeah,
but this is just clown stuff. And then on top of it, you know what I really don't like? This is like when Ryan Lochte. I couldn't stand when Ryan Lochte got into his whole fucking shit. If y'all want to go out partying and drinking in a foreign country and get into some trouble and get in trouble with the local, government and officials, okay. I mean, maybe I can look back and be like, you guys are just drunken idiots. But then you brought your mommy into it and had your mommy try to defend you, and brought your mommy into your lie and all that. And this is the whole thing. Why is Fernando Tatis's dad speaking up shut up? This is just so weak. Your son's a grown-ass man, should be able to defend himself. And you coming out and saying anything just makes this whole situation worse. I cannot stand that. It's just such soft clown shit. Who's in charge of your career, Fernando? Is Daddy in charge of everything? Yeah. Stop. First of all, and then y'all gave 2 different explanations. Tatis Junior said he was treating fucking ringworm or something.
Yeah,
And you're like, bro, you can get
yeah.
ringworm medicine at Walmart for $10. Like, I mean, what are you talking about, ringworm? This makes absolutely zero sense. And then his dad said something about him getting some, like, remember the excuse about he had gotten an infection or something from a haircut?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Like, just the whole thing, everything about it, just like the whole thing's fucking weird. No, you were trying to cheat, which I don't blame you because you can't stay healthy. You fucking pull a muscle in your rib cage when you sneeze. So I feel you. You need to do something to try to stay on the field, or else you ain't worth a damn. I'm a fan of cheating. I don't mind cheating, but you can't get caught. And you're damn sure once you get caught in a situation like this with your pants down, just don't make it worse by having your dad come into it and things like this. Like, it's just weird. Like, it's such a weird drug to take. Like, there's so many, like, in today's like society with the way drugs work, like if you want to pass a drug test, it's so easy to full drug test. Like, it's not hard. It's really not. Especially, and the more money you have and the more resources you got, the easier it becomes. Like, I do not want to hear it that this dude doesn't have somebody in his corner from a nutritional standpoint that works for him that goes, hey, if you just take these 2 supplements and do this, this, and this with it, you're going to pass a drug test every single time. You'll be fine. It's not that hard. He's just an idiot at this point. I don't like idiots. I don't like stupid people. The only cheaters that get caught are the stupid ones. You get caught when you're cheating because you're stupid, not because you were cheating. You only get caught because you're dumb. Smart ones get away with it.
It's not even just that. Like, we dealt with this a few years ago with Lane Johnson when he took the cream. He didn't check with the NFL. He got suspended for it because he didn't realize that it was like when he got it, they told him it was good, but when the NFL, when you checked with them, it wasn't good. It was illegal, so he got suspended. How hard is it to just call up the MLB or call up their representatives and be like, hey, I'm trying to get healthier faster. What substance am I allowed to take that isn't illegal so I can take it, use it as a cream, and then come back? How hard is it to ask them? Like, they're there for a reason.
If I'm somebody in their position, I've got a dude on my payroll. Like, I've got a guy that works for me that's in charge of all that. You know what I'm saying? Like just like I'm not cooking my own meals or anything like that. You think I'm preparing my own workouts? I've got people that handle all this shit. I've got a personal chef that's in charge of my nutrition, and I eat what he tells me to eat. That's why he's in charge of my nutrition. That's how he handles this. It's simple enough. Same thing with my finance. I'm going to have a finances guy. If I got this much money with all these endorsements and everything else, here, you handle my fucking money. I don't. It's too much for me. Like, it's over. I have no idea what the hell to do with it. You handle all that. But I've got people in place for a reason, because this is how you set those things up to make sure you don't get caught with your pants down in a bad situation like this.
And then it continues to happen. Everybody tells them, they're like, to follow the protocols. That's all you got to do. It's that easy, but no one can seem to follow the protocols. They want to try and get one over on the league, and it never happens because you always get caught because of the protocols. You have to take the test whenever. It's like, it's not that hard to follow the protocol. Just follow it, get healthy, check with the league, or have your person who's supposed to take care of it check with the league, and then just go from there. It's not that hard to do that. Like, I don't know why they keep on messing up and why this keeps happening. And then with the guy of the face of MLB, like Tatis Jr., where he is supposed to be one of the young rising stars who is a 5-tool player. What good are you if in a 165-game season, 162, you only play half of it each year? You're not worth the contract. And at some point, the Padres are going to be fed up. I know this sounds far-fetched, but I wouldn't even be surprised if they tried to trade him next year if he can't stay healthy to start that season. If they just look to try and maybe he comes back and he goes on a tear, maybe they look to trade him, because at any point he could get hurt again, and then that'd be the 4th straight year. He's only going to miss 20 to 30 games at the start next season, so he's not going to be back until May. At one point, do you just say, hey, I need to cut bait with this guy? If he can go hot to start when he comes back from the suspension, maybe I look to trade him now that I got Juan Soto in, because you got a lot of bats already there. It's like they have to at least be thinking that with what has gone through his career the past 3 years.
I've got Jose Altuve at the plate, and I need him to get a base hit here to keep my parlay, red hot. So we're 2-2 count. We're just kind of checking out the at bat here, live. So you probably can't see me. I know everybody can hear me. So
So the past couple of years, a couple of days for the Phillies have been kind of hot and cold. Of course, they came back and won today. They've basically gone win-loss since the double headers. But checking with the starting pitching, I feel like that's been part of the reason. Because
yes, sir. Let's go, Daniel. Let's go. He just doubled. He just hit a double to left field. Let's go.
But
baby, it's so good. It feels so good when things like that happen, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, let's go. Now we just need the Mariners to win, Daniel. Give me the Mariners over the Nationals. If the Mariners don't beat the Nationals, let me tell you something. Okay, if the Mariners don't beat the Nationals.
Well, don't say that because the Padres had issues being the Nationals. So.
But see, that's because the Padres sold themselves out to the to the baseball devil. We know what happened there. Okay, that's what happened. That's why they can't beat the Nationals. But the Mariners, they've done it the right way. They've been authentic. They've built this. They've gone through a long struggle. All these things that have happened with them. The Yankees have won, by the way, and beat the Mets. Always good to see the Mets lose. Aaron Judge, the home run. I mean, this dude is insane. The pace he's on, the contract he's going to sign at the end of the year, all this shit is crazy. But, yes, I mean, listen, the Mariners are going to make the playoffs in the American League. It's the first time in 21 years. They haven't been since 2001. And they really look like a team that has finally got it all in place to go be a playoff team. How about the guy for them that you look at and you go, what a player this guy's turned out to be, and it pisses you off as a Phillies fan, is J.P. Crawford. The dude's hitting over 300 for them, and he's just an all-around – he's been making defensive plays. I mean, he was always a really good athlete. You figured, okay, defensively this guy will be really good if he can figure out, just a few things because he's got the athleticism to play there. He made a ton of errors in the minors, but a lot of young athletic shortstops do. But he just looked lost at the plate while he was here. You know what I mean? You're just like, what? This guy's never going to be a big league hitter. Maybe we're just an awful. I mean, for a while there, it seemed like we were an awful big league coaching staff. We just had no idea what we were doing at the big league level from a coaching staff perspective. And it didn't really seem like any young player that came through the system was having any sort of success. He ends up in Seattle. And I mean, dude's like an all-star caliber, shortstop all of a sudden. And Bryson Stott makes it a little bit better for you. It feels a little bit better because we've got Bryson Stott now. But I mean, could you imagine the two of them up the middle? Could you imagine one at short and one playing second and the up the middle combination that those two are? It's just it just drives you crazy to think of what could have been there.
It drives me crazy, but then it took him 3 years on Seattle to get to that point because it was always good defensively. It was always his hitting that kind of needed to wake up at some point, and he's finally doing it now on a team that has started to get built for the past couple of years, and he's been a mainstay there just because of his defense. He's kind of just having that longevity at the spot has allowed him to work on the hitting over the past couple of years to get to the point where now he's hitting like that. He's not going to be an all-star, but he's going to be a serviceable guy that you can plug in at shortstop. He's going to hit close to 300 and give you really good defense. That's what the Mariners need there. They need that there. They need that stability of that spot.
This year, I mean, what's crazy is, and I was like, I kind of thought the same thing, but when I went and looked at it earlier, you looked at it earlier in the year, I mean, it was in July, right before the All-Star break, and he's hitting 313 with 8 homers, and you're like, for a shortstop, you're like, I mean, that is an all-star level. You're damn close to being an all-star caliber shortstop at that point. So, now that might, it's a career year is a career year, and he's in the midst of one of those too. And you need those if you're a team that is trying to make the playoffs for the first time in a long time. It's nice for guys to pop out and have career years like this. So, I mean, good for them. I'm always. It's I don't know. Maybe it comes when you're a fan for a team for us in Philly, especially when it just seems like you just get your heart broken constantly. Way more than you ever get rewarded for your passion and your loyalty as a Philadelphia sports fan. But there's those other sports franchises that you kind of latch onto a little bit. I'm not necessarily a fan of them, but I won't root against them. Like, there's certain organizations who I root against them, can't stand them. There's other ones you're like, good for them. I like to see them succeed. And like the Mariners to me have always been one of those organizations that's like, good. I like to see them succeed. Good for them. What have the Mariners ever done to anybody? They're nice.
Speaking of that, of all teams for them to be battling for that last wild card spot, they're battling the Baltimore Orioles, who are only 2 games back of Seattle.
Another team that I like to see have success, and it's kind of like if there was an American League team for like a Phillies fan to cheer for, that would probably be the team. Like whenever the Phillies go to Baltimore, Philadelphia fans love to make the trek down there. They take over Camden Yards. They have a great time. It seems like everything about everything about it would just make sense to go like if there was an American League team to latch yourself onto as a Phillies fan, it'd be the Orioles. I actually know quite a few Phillies fans that are Orioles fans too. That'll tell you if I had to root for an American League team, that would be my American League team. And they're another one. I like the way that they've done it. They really, really stayed true to a plan that, it is hard for a lot of organizations to really commit, to what they did, because they stunk for quite a few years. I mean, and they just really were at rock bottom. And it's tough to be, to be in that spot, in a lot of ways, not only as the organization, but as a fan base, because Camden Yards is a great place to see a ball game, as Matthew's talking about.
I love down there, yeah.
What a great place to go watch a game. But when you're intentionally trying to lose, people aren't really going to show up. But now that's gotten to a point where what you've gotten, if you've stayed loyal through that process, is, look how young and exciting this whole ball club is. You got all these really, young kids that are, and they're not just young, they all super talented, a lot of substance. They've got the best farm system in all of baseball. And I was reading some report, and you talk to some of the people that cover farm systems and kind of study that whole thing. And they're like some of the reports where it's not even close. They're the best farm system in baseball. And it's not a competition at the moment. That's how good their farm system is. They've got 7 guys. They've got 7 guys that they think, are when they rate prospects, it's where do they rate? And they've got 7 of them at future all-star level rankings. And you're like, how do you have I don't know if we might have Andrew Painter is the only guy in our system that I think has that level rating. You know what I mean? He looked filthy the other night. Speaking of people I'm excited about, you know how much of a fan of it I am of Andrew Painter.
It's crazy how far up that he shot in the span of a year. But just like you said with the Orioles, if you look at their lineup, you got 2 guys that are 1 and 2 in stolen bases at 27 and 25 with Mullins and Mateo. They place them at leadoff, and then they place Mateo at 9. They're trying to get those guys on base.
2 different leadoff hitters, yeah.
To where at one point you got these guys that are just going to run around the bases at 2 spots in the lineup, but then you got them say the 3rd or 4th inning, they're going to be back to back, where you have Mullins and then Mateo, and it's going to be it gives them options in that lineup where they could have up to 1 to 2 guys on base as long as they hit, because those are 2 guys that not only do they steal, but they're good hitters too. So they're going to create havoc on the bases. They're actually getting runs in, and it's allowing their pitchers to kind of calm down a little bit, and not have to worry about pitching 8 innings and 1 run. It's not.
They're probably not quite ready yet.
No.
When you look at him, you're just this is a fun little ride you guys are on, but you have to figure all that out before you actually can get over the hump. Yeah, but next year, the next couple years,
they need that big time hitter to put in that 3 or 4 spot. If they could get that, and then maybe
and they might have one. I mean, if you look at Mountcastle and then Rushman, I mean, both of those guys are dudes where you look at, or not Rushman. That's who I'm thinking. Who's the other young guy? That's is it Rushman? It is Rushman, right? They've got Mountcastle.
Yeah, the Rushman's the catcher, and then
Rushman and then Mountcastle, right? Yeah, Ryan Mountcastle, or whatever. You're right. So Mountcastle and Rushman. I mean, you've got 2 young guys there that most organizations would be like, geez, you just give me one of those guys coming through my system, and I'm like, man, I'm thrilled. You've got 2 of them coming through your system at one time. And it's kind of a thing where either one of them could grow into that guy. But yeah, even so, I look at it as to your point, now all of a sudden it becomes intriguing for like maybe a free agent or two to like, like sign there. There was a report or like a rumor that I guess has been confirmed at least that the Orioles did offer Carlos Correa a 10-year, like $300 million contract in the offseason, and he turned it down and signed with Minnesota. But like, they're at least trying. And you got to think at some point they throw some money at the right guy who's going to look at that situation, who's an absolute winner, and go, yeah, I want to go somewhere where I can win. And look at this young talent. Look at this young assembly of just complete studs, and they just need a veteran superstar like me to kind of come in there and bring this all together. Or like if you look at them, you go, they've got this lineup, this great young lineup. They're like that one really stud arm, that big time stud top of the rotation arm away. But yeah, the Orioles are like one of those teams you're looking at, like they're going to be a lot of fun. I think if you're like, you just look at them, you're like, yeah, you wish you were in their position. There's no way as an organization, you don't look at where they're at now and go, I wish I was in their position as an organization. But those are the same organizations that were laughing at the Orioles 3 or 4 years ago for committing to this current plan that they've gone through to now get to where they're at. So it's one of those things where you're like, if the Orioles go and win a World Series or two, they kind of have the ability to impact baseball in a way where maybe more teams start to try to go through this sort of process, which is not really as common in baseball as it seems to be in other sports because, you can have such quick turnarounds in other sports.
Now, speaking of superstar, we got a superstar that's going to be making his return next week. But before we talk about that, how about you tell them about becoming an A2D member?
Oh, well, becoming an A2D member is easy. And for $9.99 a month, I mean, listen, I don't care who you are. If you're not signing up for something for $9.99 a month, something is fucking wrong with you. Okay? Like, really. Like, it's $9.99 a month. So to become an A2D member, at only $9.99 a month, and all your perks include appearances on shows, members-only streams, shout-outs. You get weekly sports picks from Money Moss and the Money Pop podcast guys, Willie Vegas. It's just at $9.99 a month. It's a package that nobody else. You're not going to come close to getting anything like this. And as if you're a loyal member of the A2D family and listening to all of the shows, all the different forms of content that we have on our platforms, you got to become an A2D member. And I'm a member, and Money Moss, the alert comes right to my phone. I just get all the alerts for whenever he puts them out on YouTube about all the picks that he's putting out at whatever particular time. It's really simple. I mean, it couldn't be any more simple and great package, really unique package. Got everything you could possibly want. Even if you're not a sports gambler, like I'm a total degenerate. Even if you're not somebody like that, you've got things in the package that make it worth it for you.
Yeah. But we were just talking about, of course, the Phillies and other teams that are doing very good with their organizations. But the Phillies have Bryce Harper, who is nearing his return. He's starting his rehab assignment.
Hit a bomb today. We had a Bryce bomb today and a rehab assignment.
At AAA Lehigh, he's going to be doing a couple of games, probably taking a day or two off. And then he's going to come back next week to finish it off. So by September 1st, that he said he should be back in the Phillies lineup. Coincidentally, with the rosters moving to increasing by a couple spots, so it allows them to bring him up without having to take anybody away. And then at the same time, they also announced that they had sent down Derek Hall to AAA with Kyle Schwarber taking over at DH. That way, with him not playing, he can play every day at AAA, which makes sense. But
if you become a playoff team, Derek Hall is going to be back up here during the stretch drive anyway. He's going to be that power bat off the bench that it's just so valuable.
Yes.
Come playoff time, when you need to mix and match and kind of play that little strategy game, and somebody brings in a right-hander in the 8th inning of a one-run game, and you counter it with Derek Hall, your big power lefty off the bench, and say, okay, we can play this game. That's baseball. When you get late in the season, come playoff time, that's baseball. And he'll be back because he's going to play a really, really valuable role at that point. But until then, right, you want him seen as, you need him playing every day. You want him seeing pitches. You want him in there getting into a rhythm, finding a groove. That way, when you call him back up and say, hey, here's your role, you feel comfortable because he's seen every day at bats for the past month. And that's really all that's about. We all knew that was going to happen. I think any of us that were looking at the situation with our brain and not our heart. We do that too much in this fan base. Don't you love this Hall kid? Yeah, he's an okay player, but he's like, what? He's going to be Babe Ruth all of a sudden? Like, stop it. Like, knock it off. Like, he's a good power bat off my bench. That's what he is. He's a younger Matt Stairs. Like, that's
no, he is. I do see that because
that's what he is. That's the role he's going to play. That's exactly the role he's playing off our bench. Like, that's what it is.
And the funny thing is, that's what he's been doing on the team. He's been hitting bombs. He's probably hit like 250 to 260, which has been nice. He's been playing DH, and like this, he solidified his role, and he knows he's like, oh damn, I just got sent down, but it's so he can continue to play every day. It's not a bad thing. It's actually a good thing for him and the organization because we got Bryce Harper coming back. And we've been able to sustain this run of being a good team
and
while
I really
he's been out for 2 months.
And well, you know what's really happened during that stretch is Alec Boehm has turned into a guy that has become – he's turned the corner, right? And, like, we had all seen it, I think, over the past few years. Like, I said it, like – and this is why, like, when people ripped him in this city, like, I've said it over the past couple of years, it's – before you get results, you have to look at a guy's approach. You have to look at a way a guy approaches the game and the way, those things happen before you worry about results. And he's always been a very professional hitter, tries to give you a professional at bat, hits the ball to all fields, great eye, great, when it comes to understanding the strike zone and all that. Phenomenal with all of it. Yeah, he had his issues in the field, whatever. You got to work through some of those things. And then the way that his turning point was when he had the whole thing happen earlier this year where he mouthed, I fucking hate this place. And then the way he handled that in the media after the game, that could have been one of two things. It could have been the beginning of the end for him here in Philly, and it could have been just an absolute derailment of a young player's career who you felt like, hey, this guy's, could be a really good young player, and he's just, there's some things he's going to learn about being a big leaguer, but he's getting there. And if he would have handled that question differently, that this whole thing doesn't happen the way it has. But him handling that situation and then getting the support from the fan base and people just kind of rallying around him in the way that they did, I think really helped him. And you've watched a kid grow into a man over the past few months. Is really what's happened with that. He's gone from like a young player, now into like a professional, into like more of a veteran type of guy. And I feel confident now when I say, okay, Bryce comes back, and I know. Schwarber's going to lead off. I'm going to hit Alec Boehm too because he's the perfect two-hitter. I mean, he's just the perfect two-hitter. He is. He hits the ball to all fields. He doesn't strike out a ton. He's got just enough pop to make you feel, okay, yeah, like, great, you're in a perfect spot there. But, yeah, he's a guy that can, if you get your leadoff man on, he's going to do what it takes to move the runner over or whatever. He's the perfect two-hitter. Then you're going to hit Bryce three. And then Nick's warming up enough at the perfect time finally. Nick Castellanos is at a point where he's warming up where you can hit him 4 and feel confident even, hitting him there. Or you can maybe even say, okay, put JT 4, put Bryce 4. But there's something there. You've got your first 2 guys in your lineup, which is big. Schwarber's going to lead off and Boehm's going to be 2. And now I've got the ability to say with Harper, with Nick, with Nick Castellanos, and with JT, I can kind of play around with who's going to hit 3, 4, 5. And then you add in Bryson Stott into that situation where, he's probably going to hit 6. Right now, it looks like that's probably the perfect spot for him to hit in your lineup. 7, I guess. Reese is in a spot where I might even hit Reese cleanup, and put Nick 5, and then you could play around with Bryson and JT, but that's 7 deep right there, right? You're going Schwarber, Boehm, probably Bryce 3, right? And then you'd go Reese 4, I guess, and then you go from there. JT or Nick's 5, and then 5, 6, and 7 is going to be a combination of JT, Nick, and Bryson Stott. So that's you're playing around with those at 5, 6, 7. But that's probably my 4, right? Would you agree with that? You like that first 4 in your lineup? Schwarber, Boehm, Harper. And then Reese, I mean, that's for me, I think that's a solid 1 through 4 to start.
Yeah, and today it was Schwarber, Reese, Boehm. They had Remuto 4, then they had Castellanos 5. That's how they had it.
Castellanos, when he gets the pop, you're like, you could hit 4, but the pop's not been there. But he's been hitting well as of late, to the point where you're like, you could hit in the 5 spot and protect a guy like Reese, because nobody wants to walk Reese and come pitch to you.
It's crazy. I think that Bohm's batting 292 right now. He's not that far away from 300.
Yeah, no, he's away from there. I don't. That's why, like, until Bryce is back, he's probably in a good spot hitting 3, because he's your hottest hitter, and you want your best hitter hitting in the 3 spot. That's always the point of the 3 hole. It's supposed to be your best hitter.
And then the last couple of days they've been going back and forth. Schwarber and I believe it has been Castellanos. They've been rotating the DH between the two of them.
Which is like, I mean, ideally, like when they signed Castellanos and Schwarber, that's what they wanted. They wanted Bryce to play right field, and then you figured you'd have Castellanos and Schwarber. Both were going to see some time in left field. Neither one of them is a good left fielder.
But now it looks like once he comes back, they said Bryce Harper's just going to be DH.
He's got DH. The arm is just whatever's wrong with his elbow is not something he's going to fix itself. You're going to have to go in and arthroscopically clean that up in the offseason or something. If it ever came out, he's going to need Tommy John. You're like, well, then he's just going to DH for the rest, because like you're not going to go have him miss a whole year just so he can get Tommy John so he can continue to play right field. You're just like, guess who's going to teach him how to play first base, for God's sakes. He's a good enough athlete, right? You're like, hell, at this point, you know.
He's gonna DH Castellanos.
And that's fine. And you just live with what that is in right field, and just like you have been. But if Nick's warming up as a hitter, you can live with him, being just, you're like, both Schwarber and Nick Castellanos, defensively, they can frustrate you in the outfield. But, Schwarber's been playing, he's been hitting, the power numbers and all that all year. You haven't worried about it. Like, I don't give a fuck. Nick with him, it's been like, Jesus, you can't play a lick of defense. And then you're like, all of a sudden, like, you hit like my sister, so. You might run like Mays, but you hit like shit, like it's the scene from Major League, Now he's starting to warm up and hit the ball. You're like, okay, I'll deal with the fact that you can't really play a lick of defense if you're going to hit me 280 and be a guy that's going to hit me 25 to 30 homers and driving close to 100 runs, which isn't going to happen this year. But over the past, that's because he just had such a bad first few months there and bad stretch. But if you look at what his numbers, I bet you if you look at the end of the season, like how he finishes the year strong here, and you look at his numbers, you go, watch, like next year he's gonna be back to his old self. He's gonna be a guy that's gonna hit 280 with close to 30 homers, close to 100 RBIs, because that's where the numbers are at. He finally figured everything out and got over that hump. It took him a while, but he looks like that guy again. You're like, this is the Nick Castellanos that we all know, who like you're supposed to be. Unfortunately, there's just, we're too late in the year for you to really go make up for all that lost time. But I'm not like there's a reason baseball's 162 games, and I'm not one of these guys that gives a fuck necessarily. Great. It would have been nice if you were doing this shit in June. You were. Okay. I don't. Nothing I can do about that at this moment. We're in the playoff race, and we're a playoff team. So whatever happened in June, it wasn't enough to cost us anything to make it seem like this isn't meaningful baseball. Now we're playing meaningful baseball. And everything you do at this point, from this point forward, is way more important than what was happening in May and June. So have a strong finish to the year and be one of the big reasons why we make the playoffs. And I don't worry about these things. I don't get caught up in.
And we talked about this we've talked about this before we went on. We were gone for a couple of weeks, but with Bryce Harper going out and being on the DL for a couple of months, it's kind of allowed all these guys to have to step up, play well, and they've done a great job without him. And now you get to add Bryce Harper back to that lineup that's already doing well. And all these pitchers that are pitching against us are going to be like, damn.
That's probably like the blessing in disguise from it was because like Bryce was just carrying this entire offense, playing at a higher level than he was last year during his MVP stretch. And you're just like, something has to change here. Like this just can't be the Bryce Harper show on a nightly basis. I enjoy it. It's awesome. He puts on a great show. And the guy, he's got the personality to be the showman like that, which is awesome, but that's kind of perfect then. He's kind of the showman, the guy that kind of is the hype man, right? And then you've got all these other people around him that are also going to be able to put on a show with him. But he's just the hype man that kind of creates all the excitement, and it's like he puts on enough of a show for you, and all the excitement isn't, that's a part of his little, thing. Like he's putting on a show and putting up all the numbers while also bringing a certain flair to it. But you need the guys like Nick Castellanos, who there's not really a lot of flair to it. He's just showing up in jeans and a tank top, jeans and a T-shirt everywhere he goes. But, when he's on, he's a guy that just, he's going to mash baseballs and be a real professional hitter for you. Alec Bohm, same thing. Like, he doesn't really seem like a guy that likes to be flashy or any of that stuff. He just wants to go out there and play baseball. Perfect combination of guys. But they're all starting to click together now.
And it's nice that Bryce Harper was able to hit a bomb today, because when you place him back in the lineup and these four go with his hitting, that means he's going to be placed into that 3 or 4 spot. He's going to be hitting just like he was before, if he keeps this up like he is in rehab. And now all those guys in the beginning of the lineup, 2, 3, and 5, consider them actually 2, 4, and 5, they're going to see better pitches because the other teams are going to be worried about Bryce Harper now. Because if they're already hitting now, they're going to get better pitches on top of that. Like I said, with
oh my God. Oh. Okay, so I'm just watching some Angels Tampa Rays highlights, and Mike Trout hit a fucking hanging curveball off the roof of the Tropicana Dome. If it hits the speakers, it's in play. If it hits the roof, I guess it's a home run. And he took a hanging curveball and hit it off the roof, so it becomes a home run. Oh my God. That ball was absolutely mashed.
Now looking at who they have next, the Phillies have next on their schedule. They still got a couple more games with the Reds. Then they got the Pirates, Diamondbacks going into September, which is like a little bit of like a West Coast trip. And then they got the Giants before they come back home for the Marlins. So I can only imagine that Bryce Harper's going to come back that September 2nd game at the Giants. It's a West Coast game.
You think it'll take that long?
Well, they said they want him. They want him September. They said September because it allows them to up the roster by the 3 or 4 spots, and then it's a lot easier.
Listen, if he's rehabbing now, though, I don't need him to rehab for a full week. Like I don't.
No, they said there's going to be like 1 or 2 days where he doesn't play down there, so they want to kind of slow play it, and then with the last game in August being the 31st, it gives them 2 days of essentially to let him travel to San Fran from Lehigh, and then make the trip over for the game, and then they can have boom. They don't even have to worry about making any transactions. It's just them calling them up with extra spots, and with the teams that they're playing. As long as they keep winning, I'm okay with it. They should be winning these games against the Pirates, the Reds, and the Diamondbacks. And then you got the Giants.
Yeah, I mean, I think
like you got
Listen, I'm just saying, if I'm Bryce Harper, fuck it. The rehab assignment. There's no better rehab than going out to Phoenix and Arizona. Yeah. Like, I mean, I can't rejoin the team for the final West. I want to be in rehab, Lehigh Valley or Arizona. This is a tough decision. I'm just let me come to Phoenix with that. I don't need to go to Schittsburg. Nobody wants to go to Schittsburg, but I mean, like, can I come to Arizona with the club? For God's sakes, I want to. They got a jacuzzi at the goddamn stadium. There, ever been to that Chase Field? Holy shit! You don't even matter how good the baseball is, but you got a pool and a jacuzzi out in right field. That's why I'm going to be. If I ever went to a game there, I'm like, oh, there's a baseball game going on. Oh, I'm sorry. Somebody give me another umbrella drink as I float around in the inner tube. Like, fuck out of here.
I think he's going to be just fine. Just give him an extra couple of days.
And that place is also, here's what I also would like about him coming back in Arizona. That place is a launching pad. You know what I mean? Chase Field, is a nice place to go hit. And if you're trying to bring him back, let him get a little comfy, let him feel a little good about himself, bring him into a place like that. We're like, okay, good, just a perfect, just the ideal situation, I think. I like that way more. And then you're saying even like if you brought him in and he struggled those first few games, it's still Arizona. We're probably still good enough to win those, win that series. But I like that way more than wait. Like you wait at this point, you wait until September just to wait till September, which doesn't make any sense to me. I don't do things just like because. Like, what's your reason?
They're doing it because it's just weird. You're going to bring him up. I'd bring him up in Arizona, but their thought process is you bring him up for Arizona, you got to send somebody down just to send him down, just to send him up the next day or two. It's just kind of a pointless thing.
Well, send him down then. I'm sorry.
And then hit the showers, kid.
Get back to AAA.
And you want to give him as many bats before you bring him up. Like, I see your side. I see if he's playing good now.
Listen, that's what I'm saying. Like, he's not some young kid. He's Bryce Harper. The dude's. You know what I'm saying? He don't like. I do rehab. The fuck? Are you kidding me? Like, that's why I'm not changing anything either. That'd be like the same argument to say, well, maybe we should hit him 2 or hit him 6 and for a few games. They're like, no, throw him back in the 3-0. You don't change a goddamn thing. You send it right back to what it's always been, and you let him get right back into a groove that he was in before the injury. I'm not worried about any of that.
So what's the difference between doing it
and done this shit how many times? He's a 2-time MVP. I'm not worried about any of that nonsense. Oh, he needs as many. What good is him getting at bats against AAA pitching doing? I mean, seriously. Come on, that ain't doing me no good.
So the thing back is, what's the difference between doing that and sending him back against Arizona and sending him back against San Fran? You're still sending him up.
Because if we're just using one, I want him back as soon as possible because he's that good of a player and he makes me that much better. And I don't give a fuck if we're playing Arizona. I don't care if we're playing, this year's Arizona Diamondbacks or the 2001 Arizona Diamondbacks. I don't care who we're playing. I mean, he's one of arguably the best player in my offense, and I want him back in my lineup ASAP. But this whole idea, he needs as many rehab at bats as possible. Okay, well then again, bring him to Arizona and let him rehab there. They're kind of a AAA team anyway. So what's it matter? Like, just you ask him where he'd rather have those rehab at bats. You want to take those rehab at bats in Lehigh Valley? You want to come to Arizona and rehab there? He wants to come to Arizona. What the hell are we talking about here? Not too worried about it, but it's just that whole idea that he needs. You really think? I don't think it's he needs it. Ask him if he needs a week of rehab assignments in AAA for him to feel comfortable enough to get back to big league. He's going to say no.
No, I don't think he needs it. I think they're just sticking to the schedule that they put out. That they said from the start they're looking to have him back the first game of September. Which
fuck what you said from the start. What you can change that?
Yeah,
what am I going to tell you? Like, liar. You said September 1st and it's August 30th. You're a liar. Like, I don't what? Bring him back August 30th then. Bring him back tomorrow for all I give a fuck.
I'm all for that, but I bet you if they're winning and they're not worried about the losses, that they're still going to bring him back September. If they start losing, I could see him pushing it up. I could see him pushing it up.
You're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't there. Yeah. Because the minute he comes back and you go on one little losing streak, you're going to have the idiots who are going to be like, see, I told you, Bryce is a cancer. He's just not a winner. This is a guy, he goes out, you start winning, you figure it out, all of a sudden he's back, and now you're sticking against him. And if you start losing and he comes back and you start winning, it's going to be because, this is, we saw how good this team was when he was out. It has nothing to do with him being back in the lineup, yada, yada. So that's a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. I don't give a. When you're the $330 million man, this is what happens. Like, people are never happy.
Yeah.
One MVP award, people did nothing but bitch last year during his entire MVP run.
All I care about is that he's a week away from coming back. We're winning. He should only help us even more than what we're doing now. I don't see him.
There it is. There's the Bryce bomb. I watched it. Oh, he hit it off the guitar.
Nice. But let's transition from that to one of the last topics, which is the Eagles preseason. But before we do that, how about you tell the fans at A2D about Manscaped?
Oh, he hit a second one? Oh, he hit a second one. He had 2 Bryce bombs tonight.
That's even better.
Oh, he hit one to left field, too. He hit one to right and one to left. See, fuck a rehab assignment. What do you mean a rehab assignment? This is like we were talking about earlier when Verlander went and got Tommy John. This man went and got surgery on his head. He's a brand new man. He's like, they took those pins out. My shit's stronger than ever. He's back in the lineup tomorrow.
I was about to say, now we're going to see the report. Bryce Harper moved this thing up to tomorrow.
Exactly. A week? What are we taking a week for? He just hit 2 Bryce bombs tonight.
Yeah.
My man is hot. If you don't insert him into the 3-hole tomorrow, I'm smacking somebody.
Yeah. Yeah, but how about you tell them about Manscaped before we get moving on to the Eagles?
Yeah, because I look like a man that does a ton of manscaping around here. But if you're a man that is into manscaping, as I'm clearly not, you can get 20% off plus free shipping. I love the free shipping. It's phenomenal. 20% off plus free shipping with the code A2D at manscaped.com. That's 20% off plus free shipping with the code A2D at manscaped.com. It's time to throw out your own hygiene habits and upgrade your life. Daniel, you're somebody that needs to upgrade your life. So, this ad for people like you,
I definitely upgraded.
I'm happy in my life. I don't care how much of a caveman hippie I look like.
And some.
Maybe I am a caveman hippie. Who cares? It's the 20s.
Yeah, it's the 20s. But
the roaring 20s.
But the Eagles played on Sunday. They won 21-20.
Oh, they did? Oh, I didn't see that.
In the second preseason game against the Cleveland Browns. The one big note is no starters played at all. It was all backups. But they had like a couple of good stats here. Minshew started the game. He went 14 for 17, 142 yards. You had Deion Kane, who had 5 catches, 66 yards. The one big note receiver-wise is Devin Allen, the sprinter, who we added to the team. He had 1 catch for 55 yards and a touchdown. He had that long touchdown catch. And then Kenneth Gainwell had 11 rushes for 46 yards and a touchdown. And then Boston Scott had the other touchdown.
Why is Boston Scott still on this team? I am so annoyed. This is like Boston Scott is like the Odubel Herrera of the Eagles, except he doesn't beat women. Like it's really like that's what it's a huge difference. Where let's be honest, it's a big like it's not just like it's a tiny teeny like it's a big deal. One beats women, one doesn't. Give me the one that doesn't beat women, but like. Boston Scott and the idea that like he's still on this roster like 3 years too long. Like I know, and here's going to come all the Boston Scott. Be like, I like Boston Scott. He's a good player. I don't give a fuck. Like this is why, like, give me Kareem Hunt and I'll release Boston Scott yesterday. I'll fly back to Philly just to drive him to the stupid airport. That's how serious I am. Like this is ridiculous.
Not just that.
No, fuck you. We don't need Boston Scott. If you're taking Boston Scott over Kareem Hunt, I'm smacking the fan out of you. You're not like that's ridiculous. Like stop it. Like stop it. Seriously. Yeah. These are gonna be the people. Daniel, it's taken an hour and 7 minutes, but it's gonna happen. I promise you. If people show up in the chat room and start telling me that Boston Scott is the reason we don't need Kareem Hunt, I'm smacking somebody. Like this is absolutely insane. No, this is the reason we need Kareem Hunt, so that scrubs like Boston Scott are no longer on this roster.
But the big thing that I don't get is the fact that Gainwell had 11 rushing attempts for 46 yards, which is good. I thought that was perfect. He could have had more, but Boston Scott had 10 for 33 and a touchdown. You could have got rid of him. You could have gained Gainwell more rushing attempts. And then
that's what I'm saying. Like it's just like all you do like that. That's just so silly that a guy like Boston Scott is stealing carries from a guy like Kenny Gainwell.
And then you could have given the other rushing attempts and gave them to Huntley or Brooks and see what you have in Brooks. But instead, you're still using Boston Scott. We know what you're going to get out of him. It's not going to be enough. He's just there for he's basically the same thing as Gainwell, but I think Gainwell does it a lot better. And
I mean, the difference is
sorry to say, but we're taking Scott over Hunt. Get over
well,
it.
Then you're a moron. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. You're just stupid. I mean, I've been drinking a little bit now, so people can get it if they want, because that's what happens when the alcohol starts flowing. But like, Dan, we all know that you're drinking water. Stop. Like, it's not like you got vodka in that cup or something. Like,
it's definitely not water. I'll tell you that.
It's iced tea or something. You're drinking. You know what I mean? But I mean, like, this is just like. You see what I'm saying?
Running back isn't where we need to fill a roster spot.
We've got a really solid roster. Our biggest weakness is the quarterback position at this point. So, like, like the hell are we? I'm just trying to make the team better. There's zero reason for Boston Scott to be on this roster. Absolutely zero. He's your third running back, and all he does is steal playing time from your second running back.
And on top of that, he's
Hold on.
He's
Daniel, let me repeat that, and let's see if it makes more sense the second time I say it. Your third running back is stealing playing time from your second running back.
Yeah.
The third guy on the depth chart is like they find a way to get him into the game and just take playing from the second guy.
And not just that, but the same type of player. It's just that Gainwell's
same
younger
type of
and
player,
better.
except you drafted one of them.
Yeah.
And he's much younger and he's on a rookie contract. And
he's better.
Are we holding on to Boston Scott for nostalgia purposes? Like, I don't it's just ridiculous to me. This is why, because guys like Nate will be sad and go throw a hissy fit if a guy like Boston Scott's not on the team anymore. I get it.
He gets it too. but no, I'm with you because I really like Gainwell. He needs to get as many reps as possible.
Yeah.
Especially for next year, especially if we get Kareem Hunt, him and Miles Sanders are going to see a lot of playing time until Sanders winds up getting hurt like he always does. Then
Miles Sanders is a hangnail away from missing 6 weeks, and then you're stuck with Kenny Gainwell and Boston Scott as your 1 and 2 backs for a 6-week period. That's why you go and get Kareem Hunt. So when that situation plays out, you have another guy that you feel like can carry the brunt of the load while still Kenny Gainwell and Boston Scott having the same role they've always had. They don't have to feel like they're stepping into a bigger situation.
But not just that, because you have the same player in Gainwell and Scott, you want to give it to Gainwell, know that he's going to have a step up when Sanders gets hurt, but then you want a guy behind that. And wouldn't you want to change a back like Brooks or Huntley, where they're going to be more going up the middle, and you want to give him as many touches as possible behind Gainwell instead of having the same back in Gainwell and Scott getting 10 touches each? Maybe you give Gainwell 13, but then since Huntley had 8 and then Brooks had 6, maybe you get those extra 4 or 5 that you gave Scott, you give them to Brooks, and you give Brooks more time because he's a rookie.
They all stick. It's really like, but this is another reason why you don't need Boston Scott. Like you got all these young guys in the running back room that you drafted that you're at least trying to develop. A couple of them are undrafted, whatever, but you're still trying to develop them. If you give me Hunt and you give me Sanders, I've got a 1-2 punch that I know is solid. I've got Gainwell there who could do a lot of different things. If Sanders gets hurt, I know Hunt and Gainwell are still a really good 1-2 punch. And with the way this offense is built, if Miles Sanders does get hurt, say something crazy happens and he misses 12 weeks, or he blows his knee out or something happens where it's like, he's done for the year and now, who's your backs? You're going to wish you made the move for Kareem Hunt now. Like you really are, because your offense is fucked at that point if you're riding with Kenny Gainwell and Boston Scott as your 1 and 2 backs for like a 12-week stretch or something like that. Yeah. Like that cannot be a thing when you're talking about a team that you're looking at roster-wise and going, this is everything on paper tells you this is one of the better teams in the NFC. And we all know what the elephant in the room is with Jalen. We've talked about it plenty. Great. We're along for the ride there. Let's all hope
we already know
that next step. And he becomes that guy that is the franchise guy that looks like he can make all the throws, he can do all the things that you need him to do to go win you a Super Bowl. That'll all take care of itself. But when you just look at the roster on paper, you know how this is a team. You look at this roster on paper, and I'm more excited than 2017. Like this roster on paper to me is one of the best rosters we've seen for the Eagles. Yeah. I don't know how long, but I mean, it's been a long time. You know what I mean? Like, this roster has no holes in it. None.
But the whole with what he's saying, he says Scott is just insurance guys. Our running back one has injury problems. It's the same thing when we look at the QB position. We don't need 4. We need at least 3, maybe 2.
Well, I agree. Your 2 QBs are going to be Jalen Hurts and Gardner Minshew, and Carson Strong's your third quarterback that's probably inactive most of the time. But what's his point here? Do you understand his point better than me? Like I don't hold on to guys like Boston Scott for insurance. That's silly. Boston Scott's a veteran in this league. Like that's why I have young players.
But this is just like what I just said. Him and Gainwell are the same type of player.
Right. Gainwell's supposed to be my insurance.
So Gainwell is the insurance. if you want another insurance behind him, like you don't need Scott. It's just like I said, wouldn't you want to develop a guy like Kenny Brooks, who you just drafted and added to the team, develop him and have him be the insurance behind Gainwell?
You said Kareem Hunt's making what, $1.15 million this year?
Exactly.
I mean, hell, that's got to be close to what Boston Scott's making. I swear, if Boston Scott's making more money than Kareem Hunt, I might like shoot myself right now. Go look at the salaries. Go bring it up for me, Daniel. Seriously. No, I seriously, I'm not even like doing it. Like, I'm not even like.
You don't want me to say it.
I want you to say, how much is Boston Scott making?
$1.5 billion.
So he really is. He's making more money than Kareem Hunt?
Yeah, that's 1.5 base salary to the 1.75, which is just his total. But you only deal with the base salary at this point, and he is making $250,000 more than Kareem Hunt is right now. And get this, Boston Scott is a free agent after this year on top.
See, this conversation's over then. This conversation should have never existed. If they're both making the same amount of money, I mean, this is such an obvious choice. You trade for Kareem Hunt, you kick Boston Scott to the curb, and now you're like literally in the same situation you were before, if not better. But there's no way you can make the argument if you're Nate here that if you've literally all we're doing is replacing Boston Scott with Kareem Hunt. That's what we're doing here. Nothing else changes. The only thing literally that's what you're doing. Like you're replacing that. And who's the better player? If they're making the same amount of money and you're trying to still tell me you take Boston Scott, like just stop. Go play in traffic on the turnpike.
And not just that, but if you're trying to think about the third or fourth string insurance policy, then you got issues with this team.
Right. And my third and fourth string insurance policies are never guys that are like veteran players that make $1.5 million. My insurance policy at third string should not be a guy making $1.5 million. That's ridiculous. Say my running backs 1 and 2 are injured, well, then we're fucked anyway. Then I'm completely fucked. Then Gardner Minshew plays quarterback and Jalen Hurts takes over as my running back. Okay, at that point, I mean, like, but at that point, you're fucked anyway. I go sign Adrian Peterson or something. Like, I don't know what else to tell you. But to Daniel's point, you don't you don't hold on. You don't pay a third stringer $1.5 million. You just don't. Like, that's just silly nonsense. Like, you let Gainwell on his rookie contract be the third running back, and then you have Sanders and Hunt as your 1-2. And you look at Hunt as a guy, you're saying, okay, yeah, I know there's a lot of baggage and all this, but for $1.5 million or whatever the hell he's making for him to be my number 2 back, that's pretty damn good. And if you're a team like the Eagles, yeah, I get it. You don't like the look that comes with signing a guy like that. But when you're a team with a complete roster like this and you're looking for very, limited ways to make your team better, this is the ideal situation. A guy that's making the same amount of money as what, Boston Scott's currently making, except he's a complete upgrade from what Boston Scott is.
And on top of that,
it's just a no-brainer. I don't like. I mean, I can't believe. This is just now I'm beside myself that Boston Scott's making more money.
And then on top of that, just like I said, you just drafted Kenny Brooks. He's 24. For the next 3 years, you have him under contract for $850,000 before 2025, where he becomes a restricted free agent. I would rather be giving him more time than a guy like Boston Scott, who's been on the team for 4 years and hasn't really gotten any better. He's just been the same guy. And you got a guy like Gainwell who's getting better and better since last year. You have Miles Sanders. You're going to use him no matter what until he's hurt. You can bring in Kareem Hunt. But just like I said, you can play Gainwell more and then develop Brooks, who's under contract for the next 3 years, and see if he can be a difference maker at that spot. You don't need to have Boston Scott just because he's an insurance policy. You can create an insurance policy there in Kenny Brooks, who is cheaper.
I don't even need Boston Scott. Like, people go, oh, well, he returns punts. So does Kenny Gainwell. Like, and I'd rather Kenny Gainwell be in that role than Boston Scott. That's what my third running back is supposed to do. If Kenny Gainwell's my 3, while Kareem Hunt and Miles Sanders are my 1 and 2, and Kenny Gainwell's seeing, some reps offensively, enough reps where you're like, okay, like he's involved with the offense, but then on top of that, he's returning punts and he's returning kicks. Yeah. He is such a perfect player on that rookie contract. He fits such a perfect role. That is what you want that guy to be. And Boston Scott, and I've been saying it now for 2 years, not even just last year, but the year before that. I mean, but now it's even more than ever. Like now more than ever, he's a waste of a roster spot.
Yes.
It's just so silly.
Just have Sanders, Hunt, Gainwell, Brooks. That's the four that I think. Like Huntley has been good, but I feel like there's more potential with Brooks. So I take him over Jason Huntley, and then you just keep those four, and then you have that option if you only want to do three. You can put Brooks on the practice squad and then just call him up if a team is trying to sign him, and you have that option. But he is signed, so I feel like he's going to make the team as the fourth running back and just let Scott go, because I think that's what's going to happen at the end of the day. And if you bring in Kareem Hunt, to me, that spells the end of
that's literally how you're thinking about this. You're trading Boston Scott for Kareem Hunt. That's how you're thinking about this.
Yeah,
I mean, that's really what's going on in this situation. And if you tell it, like, I don't understand how, like, if you're just a logical fan thinking with your brain and not your heart, that's you don't come to that conclusion that Kareem Hunt's a better player there, and you're in a better position with him on the roster than you are Boston Scott. I just think that's silly. Like, this is like the people that wanted to hold on to Corey Clement for 2 or 3 years too long just because he was an important player on the Super Bowl team and he's from South Jersey. Like, you can't do that. You can't think with your heart. Just because, did you know the kid's from I know he's from whatever fucking irrelevant little small ass fucking South Jersey town. There's a million of them. I grew up in a relevant little tiny ass South Jersey town. We all fucking did, and nobody gives a shit. Like, big picture, nobody gives a fuck. I know. Like, great. Corey Clement had a nice season for us in 2017. It was a great surprise with everything that happened with it. Awesome. And then you treat it as what it is. He'll always be an Eagles legend because he helped us get a ring and he had a big Super Bowl game. He had an important catch in that game for a touchdown. There's things that you go, okay, great. You can't change history. That's always going to be a thing. There's no reason though for me to let him waste a spot on my roster for the next 2 years just because something happened in the Super Bowl year that I have to hold on to like I'm a 7-year-old kid. You're a grown man. Get the fuck over it. Move on. Like that's what this is to me. It's so silly. This is a business and it's a cutthroat business. And that's the way that goes. Like you're being stubborn if you sit here and you don't make this move if you're Howie. And Howie doesn't think like these fans. Howie don't give a fuck. Howie's like, Boston Scott for Kareem Hunt. That's how Howie's thinking. I mean, he is. He's like, I'm trading Boston Scott for Kareem Hunt here. That's what I'm doing. It's going to cost me like a 6th round pick and maybe just you might not even have to give up. Yeah, I made the joke 6th round pick and Jalen Reagor. This fan base would be like, okay, cool, we're getting rid of Jalen Reagor. But you might not even have to do that. You might just give around like a 5th or 6th round pick and you get Kareem Hunt and you call it a day. You could even trade like a 6th round pick in Boston Scott, and there you go. Now this whole thing's taken care of. I don't even, Cleveland's got another running back on the roster, and the whole thing takes care of itself, and they get an extra draft pick out of it. So you're trading 2 guys straight up, and they get the extra draft pick, and it's a 6th round pick. I'm not losing sleep over it. Ooh, 6th round pick, awesome.
Now looking into this game, like I said, no starters played at all. It was all backups. It looked like the Browns did the same thing. You got the game on Saturday night at 7 at the Dolphins. More than likely, I can only imagine that's going to be the same thing where maybe the starters don't play at all.
I mean,
maybe
what you're going into the season with.
Yeah. So, do you think that's the right idea, only having them play one series in the first game against the Jets and then the rest of the time have the backups? Or do you think that it would have been better to maybe have them play like a quarter in this game, no matter what, take them out and then sit for the rest of the game and then sit for the Dolphins? What are your thoughts on that? Because for me, real quick, I think it's okay to sit them because – if they're ready, they're ready. They have all these scrimmages with the cross practices that they've been doing with the Browns, and then I think they did some last week as well. And then they're getting first team reps like all training camp. They should be ready by then.
Preseason football is just a way for the NFL to make money off of the fact that there's extra football games. I mean, like you literally didn't you realistically don't even need to have preseason football games.
I think the only good thing with preseason is guys that are coming back from injury. That's the
guys
only
that come
thing
back
for
from
me.
injury, and then you've got young guys like the Olympic sprinter that caught the touchdown against the Browns. You can't teach that speed, and things like that come in handy on this team. I don't care if he's back returning punts. He can run a straight line. He can run faster in a straight line than anybody else on the field. The guy's got a role on this team. I probably add him to the, he's ahead of Jalen Reagor on my fucking depth chart at this point. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he just is. Another reason why I'd be like, all right, like a 6th round pick in Jalen Reagor for Kareem Hunt. Cool. Because I know I've got this kid who I'm probably, all right, you making the team now. You made the team just on that alone. You know what I mean? Like, it's, you're probably my 5th receiver to begin with anyway. Let's be honest. It's AJ Brown. It's Devontae Smith. It's Quez Watkins. And then you had John Hightower and Jalen Reagor.
You got
Zach Pascal, right? I mean, which is, I think the fact that Reagor that's just a loyalty move. That's we drafted Jalen, we'll give him one more shot. Zach Pascal's a better player than Jalen Reagor. Just stop it. But whatever. At this point, you've got enough. I forgot about Zach Pascal, right? So if you trade Reagor there, then Pascal's probably nothing changes. Again, literally zero changes. Worst case scenario, what John? You know what your 3 are. Your 3 are AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, and Quez Watkins, and then that means you've got John Hightower, Zach Pascal, and that Allen kid that are fighting for the 4th, 5th, and 6th receiver spots. And Jesus Christ, Again, if AJ Brown and Devontae Smith get hurt and I'm stuck with Jalen Reagor as a starting receiver anyway, well, we're fucked at that point to begin with. So, I mean, to me at that point, there's not much difference than, who would you rather? Okay, hey, a few guys got hurt and, this Allen kid now gets a chance with his Olympic speed. Or, hey, a few guys got hurt and I get to go watch Jalen Reagor drop another touchdown and then bitch about it on Twitter after the game. I don't know. I think I've seen the other one enough. I'm kind of I'm tired of that. It's just okay, whatever. Let me see the Olympic sprinter that seems to have some substance and some flash to him. I'm cool with that.
And then going back to the game against the Jets, where of course they had the lead, lost it. But looking at some of these the rookies that look to be starters on week 1. Some of them looked really good, like Nakobe Dean. I loved what I saw from him. He had 5 tackles. He had 4 tackles and an assist. Of course, we had, Jordan Davis, who I loved watching him and Cam Jerkins going back and forth in practice. It's not every day you have your 1st and 2nd round pick batter it out in the trenches every day in practice, and you hear great things where Jordan Davis is saying, I should have beat him there, but I'm going up against Cam Jerkins. He's a great player, but he's not going to beat me next time. And then you got Jerkins basically saying the same thing on the opposite side. They're battering out, and you got 2 young dudes that are going to be a mainstay of the lines for the next 5, 6, 7 years. It's nice to see them there. You got a couple more spots there, I liked what I saw from all the rookies. Of course, Jalen Hurts looked a little bit better. I got to see how the line does when Jason Kelce comes back. I'll be interested to see if they decide to move Jerkins to right guard, because you already have Mulata. You got Dickerson at left guard, and then you got Kelce at center. It'd be interesting if maybe they move Jerkins to right guard if they don't like what Isaac Siamatu is doing, or if they slow play Kelce's coming back from injury, and then they just keep Jerkins there until he's ready. I want to see that.
So hold on a second here. Have you seen this? So I don't know when this broke or when exactly this came through, but the Nets and Kevin Durant agree to move forward together.
Talk about something we didn't expect to happen, but I know why. Because
all of a sudden they went from that was a broken relationship and they were going to trade him to they're moving forward together.
But you know why? You know exactly why, because they weren't.
They couldn't find a trade that worked for him.
And then he knew that it was impossible, so he's like, "Damn!" He's like, "I might as well just go clean hands and just move forward because at least they looked, but they couldn't get anything back." because what are you going to get back in return? You're never going to really get enough back in return for him. And the Nets are going to be like, damn, what we did for James Harden, we have to get at least better for Kevin Durant. And it's just not logical. Like, he had Memphis who are considering it with all the draft picks that they have and money. But do they want to make that move to kind of mess up that team that they have? They were the number 2 seed in the West last year. They moved past and made the second round, had a good series in the semis, but then they fell short. And they already have a star in John Morant. Are they trying to get rid of half the team and draft picks just to bring Kevin Durant in to play with them, and then try and bring like mid-level players in on top of that to fill the spots? Or do they want to just stay with the course? And I assume that they decided to stay the course and not go any further looking into Durant. And then that was the only team that I saw that was really next level into Durant, and that's why he's still there. They kind of had to like, okay, there's nothing we can do. We're going to have to move forward. And he's like, you know what? Yeah, like there's nothing I can do because you looked and you're not going to release me. So what else is going to happen?
And he's a guy like like it's so funny. I don't know if you saw the Twitter exchange between him and Patrick Beverley, but just another dude that like Kevin Durant would be so much better if he just had somebody on his payroll that was in charge of being like, Kevin, I handle your social media stuff. You just focus on playing basketball. Stop it. Like, you're like a 33-year-old, 8-year-old. Like, this is how this fucking dude acts on social media. It's just so weird.
And for me, it's going to be fun watching Kevin Durant have to deal with the backcourt of Kyrie Irving and Ben Simmons. If Ben Simmons
weird, yeah. Like,
on the court.
How awkward is this whole situation? And all three of them, they have egos. That are like, not egos that are like weak and just like, like all three of them are just so like insecure. There's the right term. Oh, you've got three dudes that are like, from an insecurity perspective, I don't know which one's more insecure, but we all it's like Jesus, like they are like just like the mentally soft of the mentally soft. All three of them, it's the same thing. Like it's such a weird dynamic to have three guys that are that insecure, mentally, like they're just that uncomfortable in their own skin, sort of thing. Where like this is kind of what you're trying to build with. Not like the thing's a mess. I would want nothing to do with any of that. If I'm anybody, a fan of Brooklyn or any of it in any way, it's just a weird dynamic.
I know this Sixers have had minor issues with the whole James Harden thing, but now it seems like he is losing a lot of weight. He's putting the work in, but any issue with James Harden right now is a lot better than the whole Ben Simmons situation there. Since he, like we said, he got traded, he has not played 1 minute of basketball for the Nets in the regular season, playoffs, not at all. And we don't even know if he's going to be ready for the regular season with what we've heard of with how his back's been.
Oh, here's something to get you excited. Fernando Tatis on your TV crying about how he messed up.
Yeah. He's talking about his career, his dream has turned into a nightmare. Well, whose fault is that? That's your fault. That's your fault for getting suspended or being hurt half the time. I can live with you being hurt because you play a certain way, you try and dive, make plays, and it's something that's just how you play.
I can't. You dislocated your shoulder and then he does things to like continually dislocate his shoulder. I've got a shoulder that consistently pops out of place. Let me dive as aggressively as I can, head first into each base, because this is smart. Like what? Like.
Well, it's especially when you have the DH spot, which you could put him in DH and not have to worry about that. But
he dislocated his shoulder swinging aggressively at a breaking ball. He swung and missed at the breaking ball and dislocated his shoulder because he fucking took too aggressive of a hat. How do you protect that? We're going to put you at DH so you don't hurt yourself. And then I whiff at a breaking ball and fuck my shoulder. We're like this. You gave this guy $300 million.
I live with that, but it's the off-field stuff that you're
Well, but and that's the other side of it. I ride motorcycles and like, you know what I'm saying? Like, great. Like I've got all these injury issues. Like, and then I ride my motorcycle. I'm made of glass, and let me ride my motorcycle and go break my wrist. And then he lied about that. Remember that? That was one of the original incidences when he was like 20 and he got hurt riding his motorcycle and broke his wrist. And he lied about how he broke his wrist and told him it was something else, but it was actually him riding his motorcycle.
And it seems like it's crazy how all these big time stars are getting hurt. Like even Mike Trout. Like Mike Trout has a back injury. He might not be the same player. He hit the home run today, but
he'll still go hit 30 home runs a year with a bad back. You'd be like, this guy.
He'll hit 30 home runs with a bad back, but now he might not be a 300 hitter anymore. He might be a 260 to 270 hitter now.
Well, he was already kind of trending in that direction to begin with, but yeah.
But now it's like I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but now the Angels are stuck with him. They are kind of stuck with him because who's going to want to trade for that? Like even though he's a great player,
that's going to be a chronic thing that it's going to like. I mean, back injuries, like ask Don Mattingly how those go. You know what I mean? Like they don't get any better. No, they don't. They don't just fix themselves. I've got herniated discs and bulging discs in my neck. And I can tell you, I could just wake up on a random Thursday and you're like, oh my God, what the fuck happened last night? And like, that's, you wake up and some days it's good and some days it's bad. And, the slightest movement in either direction and it tweaks it in some way. And you're like, oh my God. And now you're walking sideways because your neck hurts that much. Like, playing baseball for 162 games with everything that goes with that, that's not something, it's not something to fuck around with a back injury. Speaking of swinging and missing at a pitch aggressively, I bet you, like, I do something like that. Like, yeah, that'll hurt. Like, I umpire, all these baseball people constantly hear me talk about when they listen to the show, me talk about umpiring. And there was a situation when I was umpiring home plate where there was a play at the plate. And I kind of just took a quick adjustment step to my right because the ball kind of got the throw was coming in and it deflected off the runner. And I kind of took a quick step and moved to my right because I didn't want to be in like the line of fire as the ball was coming in. And as I took that quick move to my right, I felt my neck, the discs in my neck, just something tweaked up there in the upper back. And I couldn't even get down in my crouch behind home plate for the rest of the day. As far as I had to do like another 2 innings and then one more game behind home plate. I was doing. Remember the old scissors? Remember watching baseball back in the 80s and the umpires that would do the scissors, behind home plate. I'm doing the old scissors technique and all different things because I couldn't actually do a squat. My back was killing me that much. That's the type of shit that happens when you're talking about chronic back issues. Like it's one little thing, or just sleeping wrong the night before in a bad hotel bed or, a long plane ride across the country and, something that makes it go, okay, it's just not feeling good today. And there's absolutely no way you can go play baseball. They're going to have to really, really manage that, with all of the training staff and all the, these teams that, obviously these big league clubs have phenomenal medical teams, but that's going to be something that's going to take like every day. You're going to have to go and maintenance it and do things to it to treat it to make sure that,
on top of that,
he's in good enough shape to play.
And on top of that, they're lucky to have a guy to complement him in Shohei Ohtani, but at the same time, now you got Ohtani who
they're going to trade Ohtani. They've almost got no choice but to trade Ohtani because they're in a position where they're not going to win shit, and you have to he's kind of like Ohtani's at a point right now where you're never going to get more in return for him than you will at this very moment. So and he's like. Any big market club wants Shohei Ohtani to come play for them because he put asses in the seats. He's marketable.
And then he pitches and he hits and he's doing both.
And he does them both at a high level.
Yeah, he's an all-star on both levels. And at what point
he's going to become a Boston Red Sox? For me, I don't see there's he ends up in two spots. He either ends up the Cubs or he ends up with the Red Sox. There's no way. That it's just the perfect market for him to be in where you're talking about two clubs that at the very least, if they're not going to be good, they at least need somebody like this that they can market that they're at least, enough of a big market, team that when you talk about Major League Baseball, there's teams that have certain brands that are always, no matter what, are going to be marketable. The Yankees, the Red Sox, the Dodgers, the Cubs. He ends up somewhere like that.
Yeah, I agree with you. But, be the perfect spot for him, just the team that needs them, the Orioles. Like we said, they kind of need that pitching and they need that big bat in the middle of the lineup.
I could see them do, but at this point with the Orioles, after all this work that they've put into to build that farm system into the powerhouse that it is, are they going to trade what is pretty much? I mean, the Angels are going to be like, okay, yeah, that's fine if you give us like 4 of your top 5 prospects. And you're like, yeah, no.
But that's always the back and forth that you do as an organization. Is it worth it to bring this guy in who is a high level guy? He's going to be the ace of the rotation. Like 10 to 15
listen,
games, and then he's going to be your best hitter at the same
other
time.
place I think he's perfect is the division. I think he's perfect in Seattle too, which is another place with a. You want to talk?
I would think that if they didn't just get Luis Castillo there.
But even so, go for it. I mean, fuck it. You can, because one guy only pitches and one guy does both. But they also have that history. You want to talk about a city that has a heavy, Asian, Japanese, Chinese, like all, that whole population. When you talk about, it's a big part of the culture. Seattle's got a huge Asian culture. That's a big part of, everything that is, the city of Seattle. And they've been very successful in the past of marketing players, from that background, Ichiro and guys like that, right? And not just Ichiro, he's the obvious one to go with because he's an all-time great. But it's not like he's the only one that they brought in, and they've been able to market, and bring in and make a big, it's like kind of he just fits in perfectly into that Seattle culture, and it becomes just a perfect player for them to have to be able to, like, not only are you a star, but you're kind of the perfect player for us to market on our end, But I just don't think the Angels would do business with the Mariners at that point just because of the look of the whole thing with being a division rival. Although the news came out today that the Angels owner is looking to sell the team. So at that point, you never know. The new owner might be like, fuck it, I don't give a fuck. I'll trade anybody to anybody at this point because I'm putting my own trademark on this team. It's got my own stamp on it.
I feel like there's nothing you can do to Trout. Even if you're given offers, the offers are never going to be what you want for them. You're never going to get anywhere near close of the price tag to get Trout because of the money he costs. You're going to have to pay a lot of money to sit him out. And he's just the face of your team right now. So you're kind of stuck with him. But Shohei Ohtani, I feel like, just like you said, this is the perfect time to do it. And they even offered him up until a certain point this year. He was up there for trade because right now he's healthy. He's hitting like top notch. His batting average could be better, but I'm not worried about that too much of his. He's hitting bombs and hitting guys in like to home plate. He's pitching. He's one of the best pitchers in the AL right now. You train him at his highest point because what if you go into next year and he gets hurt?
There's no chance he's not being traded this offseason, Daniel. We know what's happening this offseason. It's going to be the Shohei Ohtani sweepstakes.
Yes. And then on top of that, your third best hitter, Anthony Rendon, is already hurt. He's hurt as well. Like, this is the Angels' curse. Like, I feel like every year.
I'll tell you where he's going to end up. You want to be ready for this? You want to be ready for this? This is where he ends up. And we talked about him earlier. San Diego. Another market where it'd be like he fits in perfectly to that culture in Southern California. He's not, he probably doesn't even have to sell his house. He probably just lives in the same house that he currently owns. He's just like, fuck it, I'm just going to keep my current property. It's just a straight drive down the highway to San Diego. But they've already sold themselves out to the baseball, to the dark side of baseball. Let's be honest. If you've got baseball gods, you've also got like baseball devils, and they've sold themselves out. The Padres. It's like the scene from Little Nicky where Dan Marino's sitting there in front of who's the dude that played the devil, played Adam Sandler's dad in Little Nicky. I can't remember his name, but you know who the fuck I'm talking about. You remember the scene I'm talking about where Dan Marino's sitting there in front of the devil, in front of Little Nicky's dad, and he's like, can't you just can't I just sell my soul for one Super Bowl? Can't you just give me one Super Bowl? He's like, no. He's like, come on, Dan, you're much too nice of a guy for that. He's like, damn it, you did it for Namath, and he's like, yeah, well, let's be honest though, Namath was on his way here anyway. You know what I mean? It's that sort of thing. The Padres have done that.
This isn't going to happen, but could you see like a Shohei Ohtani for Fernando Tatis Jr. just because the Angels would just be like, we're not going to win anyway, so let's try and get Tatis Jr.
That could happen. There you go. Now you've got something, Daniel. Look, now, come on. This offseason, when we're in the middle of football season and it's like December and there's nothing going on from a baseball perspective, but that becomes the trade that gets talked about. Oh, that's red hot stuff right there. Fernando Tatis Jr. for Shohei Ohtani. And And then on top of it, the Angels will demand that the Padres actually add in a couple of young prospects or something. At that point, that actually becomes a hell of a deal for the Angels. Fuck it, I'll do that. If you're the Angels, yeah, I mean, why not?
Because you're not coming into the season as a favorite.
And if you're San Diego, like when you invested all that money in that contract at Tatis, part of it is he's going to be one of the faces of this franchise sort of thing. And that's not the case anymore. That fan base wants nothing to do with that kid. Like they fucking they're like, fuck this kid. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, like you're entitled, you're privileged. You kind of act like you're like, like you act like somebody that's like earned everything in this industry and in this sport, and like you can't even stay on the field consistently. So like I think it's a hard sell for San Diego to try to sit there and bring him back and say, oh yeah, all this invest your money and invest your time and effort as a Padres fan into this kid. That it's just hard, and it might be best for both sides. If you're the Padres and if you're Fernando Tatis, to just sit there and say, okay, we need to find a way to move on from this situation because this isn't going to work for either side.
And the Angels know that Trout's not getting any better. At some point, Shohei Ohtani might start to get hurt, and he might not be able to use him as both a pitcher and a hitter anymore. And you can eat the 30-game suspension at the beginning of the next season.
And if you're the Angels, you might look at this and you go, okay, the one thing you do have going for you here with Trout and Rendon is those are guys that are absolute professionals. No matter what Rendon's going through, he's a guy that carries himself and approaches the game the right way as far as the way you want a professional do it. The complete opposite of what Fernando Tatis Jr. currently is. And if you're the Angels, you go, okay, at least we've got him in a locker room and in a clubhouse, with somebody like Mike Trout who, if the one thing we're worried about with this kid is his maturity and figuring out how to mature and be a professional and actually understand that that's a huge side of all this.
Yeah.
It might be one of the better situations for him to end up in because it's kind of low risk, high reward. He's not in a situation like if Tatis ends up like with the Yankees or the Dodgers or somebody like that, you're immediately in a position where you're walking into a clubhouse where you need to behave. We've got something going here. You can't be a distraction or somebody that becomes, somebody that's taking away from what we've got going here. It's none of that. So he's, a situation like the Angels is kind of perfect because you're like, we're kind of irrelevant right now anyway. We're going through a transitional phase with a new owner. There's just kind of things here that it's like, no matter what you do, you can't really negatively affect this situation any more than what it currently is. So I actually really like that idea, Daniel. I didn't even think of that, but I like that's the idea, like the best idea I've heard so far with any of this on either side of it.
And if you can get Tatis healthy, if you can get his head in straight where he stops being bonehead, you now have another face of an organization that's
you still got a guy that's pretty young where you're like, this kid's like, he can be an absolute stud for you by the time he's 25.
And how are you gonna pitch how are you gonna not pitch to guys back to back in Trout and Tatis at say 2 and 3 in the lineup? You got those two, and then you just find a spot for Rendon if he can stay healthy. You're looking pretty good. It's gonna hurt your pitching, but that's where you kind of have to go weigh your options. You're gonna be better at the end. But you got to know that at some point Shohei Ohtani is going to not pitch and hit. And what if he just decides to be a pitcher instead of a hitter?
Or even if he does, he's never going to continue to do both of them at the level that he's currently doing them. Like you've got a guy that you might have a 3-year window with him to be able to be this type of elite player on both ends of doing this on both sides of it before it becomes either like. I could see it where he's always like a guy that's going to be an elite hitter that can, he's got 40 home run potential and that'll never change, or a guy that's going to always be able to be a really good pitcher for you and that'll never change. But at some point, it's like doing both of these at the level that he's doing it. And it's just hard to continue to do that for your whole career. That'll end at some point.
And then with the Angels' woes with pitching, where they can't bring a pitcher in to do good, I feel like he's going to wind up turning into just a pitcher because they're going to be like, hey, we need you to just focus on pitching because we can bring a hitter in. But
I think that whole thing takes care of itself. Like as long as he's still an elite player, like as long as you're an elite hitter and an elite pitcher, you'll continue to do both. Like there's no reason for you not to continue to do both. The minute that, one of those changes and like then it becomes, okay, we have to pinpoint, which one is is you being an everyday right fielder and hitter to go along with you trying to pitch every 5th day? is the reason why you're no longer, as effective as a pitcher as you once were is because you're playing, every other day, playing every day in the field as well? Or is it the other way around?
Yeah.
Do we need to just not have you pitch anymore because, hey, you only have so many bullets in the gun to begin with, and once you're out of bullets, you're out of bullets, and let's focus on what you continue to really do at a high level, which is rake. And we've seen guys that can rake, certain guys. Nelson Cruz is 45 and he's still hitting bombs for the Orioles.
Yep.
Like certain guys are just kind of different breeds like that, so you don't know. But they'll come to a crossroad where that becomes a conversation.
And look at Albert Pujols back on the St. Louis. He's only 7 or 8 home runs away from 700. He's kind of had like a couple months renaissance. No matter what, even if he's not a guy that like Ohtani will be somebody that, like, even if he's never like a every fifth day starter, at the very least, you'll always have a guy on your roster that, this guy knows how to pitch. We know we can throw him on the mound in a certain situation and he can make it happen. And, maybe it goes from he's a guy that is a starter to, the way high school and college used to work, where like one of your shortstop's the guy that also comes in the 7th inning to be the closer to get 3 outs and then, at the end of a game when you really need it. That could be a thing where he transitions to he gets, he'll get guys out in the 7th and 8th inning of a game for you because you just, hey, you need another guy that can get guys out late in the game. If, maybe he's not, maybe you have, a bullpen that's set in place, but hey, you just had 5 or 6 of those guys that pitched yesterday because your starter only went 2 innings and now you're short of bullpen, and you're like, damn, the bullpen's fucking beat up and it's tired and it's weak and we don't have many arms in there. All of a sudden, it's nice to have a guy like Shohei Ohtani who, you can go give me a couple innings on the mound if I desperately needed you to. You can make that happen. But the more he plays and say he goes down or he gets a little bit rare, you kind of lose that stock a little bit and say that trade – for Tatis isn't going to always be there. So if the
stock has never been higher with Shohei Ohtani, sure. So, and it's crazy because I didn't think it could get any higher than it was after last year. Yes. After last year, you went like the stock. Yeah, this guy he's never going to top what he did this year. And then he came out this year and topped it on both ends. His hitting went down, but his pitching a little bit.
Up.
But you're still like a great hitter. But his pitching has become, you're like, man, you're like a legit ace all of a sudden. And it's just it's unreal. We haven't seen anything like it in our lifetime, and there's hadn't been anything like it since Babe Ruth. But that was well before either one of our lifetimes. We're talking about our parents' lifetime at that point. And hell, I don't even know if my dad's old enough to remember watching Babe Ruth. Hell, he's not. My dad was born in 56, so we're going back to our grandparents' lifetime for a lot of that. To say, my grandfather died at 96, but I know, when he was alive, I could ask him, hey, what was it like to watch Babe Ruth play baseball on TV? And he could tell me. He saw Babe. Babe Ruth was one of a kind. You had stars, and then you had Babe Ruth. That's how big of a star Babe Ruth was. You know what I mean? It was just a different level of star. The original, Babe Ruth was the original. It's like for it to be the 1920s and for you to have the amount of attention on you from a media perspective, like he was the original rock star when it comes to that sort of thing. You know what I mean? Like that's really what it is. Like, and in some ways you look at it and you go, Barry Bonds is probably the greatest offensive player of all time, but the only guy that's still in the conversation with him is Babe Ruth. Like, Barry, like most of the records that Barry went and broke, and you went, okay, the home run record obviously was Hank Aaron, but you're talking about all the insane ones, like the on base percentage, things like that. How many the walks in seasons and single season walk records, things like that. Like those were records that Babe Ruth, is like when it happened with him, you're like, this is how scary and intimidating that guy was. And Barry Bonds got the same type of treatment. Let's intentionally walk you with the bases loaded. You're going to walk over 200 times in a season because you just got that level of respect. Those are your two greatest hitters in the history of baseball, Babe Ruth and Barry Bonds. And then I think Ted Williams is probably third.
Yeah, but before we wrap things up, we're about to hit the 2-hour mark. As of right now, the Padres are down 2-1, which is good to see.
Mariners are winning. Mariners are up 2-0. There was a no-hitter in that game. Is Robbie Ray still throwing a no-hitter?
2-1.
2-1. So Robbie Ray clearly is not still throwing a no-hitter.
Yeah, 2-1 Mariners in that game. Joey Meneses hit a home run in the top of the seventh. And then the Dodgers are beating the Brewers in the top of the fifth, 7-1. So we got 2 games that are looking for us. And
I actually went and dropped a couple bucks on the Nationals. The Nationals were down 2-0, and they were plus 750 on the money line. And I bet like $2 on them. And all this, if this hits, it was a $10. It was a $10 bet on a parlay. So you're like, I bet $2 on the Nationals at plus 750. So we're winning money regardless of what happens. You're up money for the night. So that's always nice.
But I know we'll be back next week. We'll be probably talk a little bit of the Eagles and Dolphins, the last preseason game, see what we see from the backups there, which is, of course, the Phillies talk, see how Bryce Harper does with the more of his rehab assignment, see if he comes back early, see where the Phillies are. They're finishing up with the Reds. They have the Pirates afterwards, and then they'll be starting with the Diamondbacks. And then, of course, anything else here. But I'll let you wrap things up for tonight so we can get going.
Oh, my goodness. I can't. Joey Meneses, of all people, hit a home run. Oh, that's disgusting. What a way to break up your no-hitter. You're like this scrub. Good Lord. Again, there it is. Alan Foy, our man at eXp Realty. All types of stuff going on with Alan. And, just like us, he's the best in the business at what he does. And if you're looking to buy or sell a home, looking for a changing career brokerage, you contact Alan Foy of eXp Realty LLC at 302-682-8820. Visit him at alan.foy@exprealty.com. But, yes, fun show tonight. Good way to kick off our Tuesday night. Debut and start of the weekly roundup in the Tuesday night time slot. I'd like to try to I don't think our usual cast of characters has gotten the memo yet that we're on Tuesday nights because a little bit of an emptier chat room, but we'll have to get it out there and hopefully the message will get across to everybody that usually hangs out with us and has a good time that it's Tuesdays at 9:30 now and they got to make the switch with us. But you got anything to add, Daniel?
Other than that, just come back next week ready to go. We'll have more topics, like I said, for you guys. We'll get used to this Tuesday night time slot because it's totally different than Saturday night. And hopefully everybody comes back here. And then other than that, I am ready to go. Don't forget to hit the damn like button and subscribe to the channel on YouTube and Facebook and Instagram and, of course, Twitter at A2D Radio. But other than that, of course, I am Dan. This is Zach. And you guys have a wonderful rest of your week. But we are out.
Peace, love, and marijuana.